Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wellness for Women Entrepreneurs. In today's episode, I want to talk about how to change your relationship with food. A lot of women entrepreneurs come to me and they tell me that they want to change their relationship with food. They tell me they always go to food for all these reasons when they're not actually hungry. Like they eat cookies even though they know they want to lose weight, they overeat chocolate and desserts after dinner, and they keep doing these things where they want to overeat even though they have a wellness goal. Well, in today's episode, you're gonna learn exactly my 3 top tips on how to change your relationship with food so you can lose weight permanently and make those changes a lifestyle change. So the first tip that I want to say about how to change your relationship with food is number 1, to acknowledge that food is a neutral source of energy. In other words, food is just food, and everything else that we think about food is some sort of meaning or story that we're attaching to food. Like if you just focus on the facts, the only thing that food is basically energy that's packaged in a solidified form. So what makes it so hard to stop overeating even though food is just energy? The reason why we want to overeat even when we're not actually hungry is because of all the meaning and all the stories we attach to food. In our society, in our culture, we learn so much conditioning, we have so much programming around food and what it means. Even for me as a Filipino woman, I've learned so many things about food, like food is love, food is connection, food is hospitality. Food means that you are strengthening a bond with family members. For other people, food might be therapy. It might be stress relief, it might be entertainment, it might even be a sense of happiness or comfort, and maybe even a source of stress relief. Some people also think of food as a way to celebrate themselves. Think of birthday parties, think of holidays, just think of all the reasons why we eat even when we're not physically hungry. And it's not wrong to think those things. I mean, we've had all these messages that we were taught when we were children. So a lot of these messages were taught to us when we really didn't have a choice of what to think in our lives. Like we were just taught,
oh hey, we eat birthday cake on birthdays. Like
it just became a truth to us when we were younger. So it's not your fault if you think this way. However, because we're thinking this way about food, it causes us to eat even when our bodies aren't physically hungry, and that's what makes weight loss really hard to achieve. The great news is that as an adult, you get to decide intentionally how you want to think about food. Just because of all the messages and all the conditioning and all the programming you've received about food was something you learned when you're young, it doesn't mean that you have to keep thinking this way about food. You could unlearn all the messages that you learned about food, and you could think of food in a different way. And in order to do that, a great place to start is to first just think of food as a neutral source of energy that just provides fuel to your body. Everything else about food is just a meaning or a story that you're attaching to food. The second tip I have to help you change your relationship with food is that you have to take responsibility for how you feel and not assign that responsibility to food. If you rely on food to feel better, you're never gonna feel satisfied. That's why you could have a buffet of food and you could literally keep eating and eating and eating and you still won't feel full. So many of us have this sort of codependent relationship with food where we keep depending on food to make us feel better. And this is tricky with weight loss because if food is the way that you feel good and you want to start eating less of that food, of course there's gonna be some sort of rebellion, there's gonna be some sort of like retaliation against eating healthy because now you're taking away food, which is the source of happiness for you. And oftentimes we confuse the dopamine hit that we get from food, we confuse that dopamine hit with actual happiness and with actual joy. Where in reality, a dopamine hit only lasts like a few minutes. Like if you think about it, right? Like if you feel good from eating candy, it doesn't last very long. It only lasts like a few minutes and then we'll want another candy and another candy because that good sensation only lasts for like a few minutes. So if you want to stop depending on food to make you feel better, here's what you have to do. You have to start asking yourself, how can I start feeling better without food? You have to really understand, why are you wanting to feel better? Like, what is the source of your discomfort? What is making you want to feel better? Like, are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling bored? Like, why are you feeling this way? And you really have to ask yourself these 3 questions, which helped me a lot to help me stop my emotional eating and stop my stress eating. The first question is, what is the real problem here? The second question is, what am I hoping this food will solve for me? And the third question is, how can I solve this problem without food? When you take ownership of your emotional wellness and you take away that responsibility from the food, then you're in full control over how you feel, and you don't need to keep overeating to feel better. And that's how you get food freedom, because you don't have to keep eating and eating and eating to feel better. In fact, you could feel better right now in this very moment. So just as a quick test, I just want to prove it to you. Like, go ahead and close your eyes and think of a time, think of a memory where you just felt so happy. Like, maybe you graduated school, maybe you had a promotion at work, maybe you got married. Like, whatever memory comes to mind that helped you feel so good. Now, how are you feeling when you think of that memory? Chances are that you probably feel at least a little better than before we did this exercise. And that's because feeling good inside isn't dependent on food. It's all dependent on what's going on in our mind and how we think about ourselves. Now, before I go to my last tip on how to change your relationship with food, I want to give you a special gift. I talked a lot about emotional eating in this video, and emotional eating is basically when you eat food for any reason besides fueling your body. And if you find yourself like you're a person who is currently eating a lot and snacking a lot in the evening, or you're eating desserts a lot after dinner, I have a treat for you to help you with this. So I created a free guide called the Quick Start Guide to Impulse Mastery Around Food, because this will help you stop sort of eating impulsively so that you can start getting a handle on the emotional eating, and then you can start changing your relationship with food. So if you want to grab that guide, go ahead and click the link in the description box below, and this is my Quick Start Guide to Impulse Mastery Around Food. Alright, so now on to tip number 3 on how to change your relationship with food. So my last tip, which is the most effective and the most profound in my own journey, in my own personal wellness journey, is that you have to act like a person who doesn't eat food for an emotional reason. So I'm gonna give you an example. In 2017, I was pre-diabetic, and I chose to stop eating sugar and carbs so that I could reverse my pre-diabetes. But before I did that, I was a carbaholic. Like, I loved pizza, I loved pasta, I loved bread, I loved all those things, and I never ever thought in my life I would give those things up. So what helped me make the transition to eat a sugar-free diet was I started telling myself that I'm just the person who doesn't eat sugar or flour. Like, I imagined it as if I were like a smoker or a person who doesn't smoke. I've never smoked anything in my life. But anyway, I just imagined as if I was like a vegan or somebody who doesn't smoke. Like, I pretended I don't eat sugar and flour as if I'm already like a person who doesn't eat meat or a person who doesn't smoke. Like, I just took that on as my identity. And when I did that, it was so easy for me to say no to sugar, so easy for me to say no to carbs. I didn't feel tempted, and I was able to be sugar-free up till now, and like over 4 years ago. So if you want to change your eating habits for good, if you want to change your relationship with the food, you have to start thinking, feeling, and acting like a woman who does not turn to food for an emotional reason. Someone who doesn't eat food when she's not actually physically hungry. So you have to really think about this. Like, if I were that person now, what would I do to take care of my emotional needs? Really think about that. If food was not even an option, like if you're feeling sad right now and food was not an option for you to eat when you're feeling sad, how would you help yourself feel better? Maybe you'd call a friend. Maybe you'd hire a life coach. Maybe you'd go on a Facebook group and get support. But there's so many different ways to help yourself feel better emotionally without food that you miss out on if you just go to food to feel better right away. So those are my 3 tips on how to change your relationship with food so you can start losing weight permanently and so you can start having the body you deserve right now. If you love this video, go ahead and hit subscribe and click the bell for notifications so you could get all my future videos right when they come out. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.